Okay, you have to check this out. That is the Monogram CC, that stands for Creative Console. It's a nice controller that I use in Cubase and also other apps on my computer. I've been working with this one for the past month and a half, and I'm gonna have to tell you, I'm kind of addicted. So let's look at how we can configure the Monogram CC with Cubase. Hey, what's up, my friend? Chris Lim here from Mixdown Online. Now, this type of controller has all to do with improving your workflow. So talking about workflow, if you want to improve your mixing workflow, check out my free workshop on how to build the perfect mix template. In this workshop, I show you how I build my own mix template to speed up my workflow when mixing music. So check it out. The link is down below. Okay, now let's jump right into the Monogram Creative Console. So first, let's look at the controller itself. It's a modular system, so basically that means that we have several modules that you connect all together to form like the perfect layout you wish for, depending on how many modules you have access to. So it's very well done. All modules are surrounded with magnets, and underneath the module we have a rubber pad that will surround the module, so this way the controller stays put on your desk and it's not going to move around, which is very practical. So what we have as far as the modules goes, we have this big knob, which is the orbiter module. We have a slider module, the button module, the knob module, and then this module here that is the central part of the controller, because that is the module that is actually connected to your computer via USB-C. The build is solid. The magnets are pretty strong. Everything connects together very well. The sliders also are very, very smooth. And there's a lot of reach also, which is quite nice. Everything feels solid and well built, so I kind of like that. So to configure the controller itself, we need to open the software that comes with it, which is the Creator software. And this is where you'll be able to create a profile for your controller and the software you are working with. Originally, this type of product was aimed more towards graphic designers and videographers. So softwares like Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere, Illustrator works very well with the Monogram Creative Console. Actually, they have specific preset profiles for these softwares. Now, when it comes to Cubase, you need to create one from scratch. So if you click on the plus sign from the software, you have one profile for Cubase, but it's an empty one. Now, if you're using another DAW, you can also use a basic profile and work that out and change the icon if you want to by uploading your own icon. But I have one for Cubase, so I'm good to go. So this is what it's going to look like when the profile is going to be empty. I'm going to go back to my own Cubase profile, and this is what I have. Now, the cool thing, if I go back to the Monogram itself, when I talked about the modular side of it, if I remove some modules, you will see them in real time disappearing from the software, which is actually very cool. So I'm going to connect one back, and it's going to show right away. And same for this one. And it's back in real time, which is super well done. And everything is responsive. If I move the slider, you're going to see it right away moving on the software. Okay, so very cool. And you can change all the colors of all those different commands that you have. And it's very simple. You click on the command, and you can select, in this case, the sensibility of the knob and the color, different colors, and it's going to change in real time, which is very, very cool. So now to work this out in Cubase, it's very simple. Once you connect the Monogram CC on your computer, Cubase is going to detect it as a MIDI device, and you'll be able right away to work it out and assign some commands on straight on the software itself. Now, before I jump into this, I want to be transparent and just let you know that Monogram sent me one studio set, which is this one, the Creative Console Studio. That's the kit that they sent me for me to try out, and they also sent me an extra slider module to go with the kit. And then I decided to add a button module and an extra knob module just to make it a bit more complete for my needs. But in reality, this type of controller can be used with a minimum set of modules if you want to, since you have access to different profiles within the same software that I'm going to show you later on. So you can actually go a long way with a small setup. Okay, now let's look at the knobs that I have on the left side. So those are assigned to two things. First, a CC message that I'm going to talk to you later on, and also the press, because this knob can turn from left to right and can also be pressed on, which is also very nice. So there's two type of commands you can assign to this one knob. So I'm going to click on that knob and I have the turn and press option. The turn one is a CC message, which is assigned to 16 in this case, and the press is under keyboard mode, which is assigned to E plus, Alt, and Control. So in my case, that will open or hide the lower zone of the project window. I have another command on the second knob here that is going to open a virtual instrument on a selected channel. That can be super practical. The third one is render in place. So if I decide to render in place this event, I select it, I click, and that will open the render selection. I also have other commands like there's a de-essing macro that I use for manual de-essing, and the listen option that I use to use that listen we have on a channel. So if I click on this one on a selected channel, is going to activate the listen mode to monitor the signal itself, like very useful for an effects channel track. If I want to monitor the effect only, I'm going to use the listen mode. And I've made a video on that before, I believe, so I'm going to link it. If I can find it, I'm going to link it down below and on top. And I have this one at the bottom right, which will zoom in and out. So let's configure this one. And I'm going to click on turn, keyboard mode, assign H for the left turn and G for the right turn, which are the default key commands for zooming in and out. And there you go. I can zoom in and zoom out from this knob, which is very useful. Then if we look at these buttons here, I have the first one that will switch from the mix console to the project window, and the second one will open the channel settings window of a selected channel, and the third one is access to Quick Link. If I want to activate Quick Link, that I work with a lot, I just need to press this button here. So this is basically how you can set that up for just key commands. You select it and you click on their keyboard mode. You just add the shortcut or the key command straight on this section, and that's it. If there's a combination of Control, Windows, or Alt, Shift, you just check those on and you're good to go. And for MIDI mode, those are CC messages that you can assign. Very simple. Now these at the bottom, like especially these two, they are configured differently. I assigned a MIDI message to both. So the reference knob is assigned to CC39 and the talkback to CC40. Now the reference is the command in Cubase that I use to switch from my mix to my reference mix using the control room. So if I click on the control room, you see the mix monitor source, and C1 is Q1, which is monitoring the reference mix. I already made a video on this one. If you want to check it out, I'm going to link it on top and down below. But basically, I use this command to switch between the two, and same for this one, which is going to activate or deactivate talkback, that I use a lot when working with an artist. And the reason why I decided to use CC messages to control these commands is to be able to access those commands on other profiles that are not Cubase profiles. So let's say Cubase is open and I go straight on, I just open Amazon Music to check a reference. By default, the profile of the controller is going to switch from Cubase to Universal 1, which is the universal profile I use for Windows tasks. And this is going to go under that profile. So in this case, all my key commands from Cubase will not work because they are not part of this profile. But I can assign a CC message command right on this profile that is outside Cubase if I want to. And this is what I did. So this one is assigned to CC39 39 and the TalkBack to CC40. And this way, if I go back to my Amazon Music, I can, you know, switch from the mix to the Q1 without having to go back in Cubase every time. So this is practical for me, and same for TalkBack also when I record. So to set that up in Cubase, you open up Studio Setup and you create yourself a generic remote. Now, if you don't know how to do this, you click on the plus sign on top and you go down to generic remote and you assign the input and output to Monogram MIDI. And then you're going to add yourself a command. Mine, I named it a reference, and the second one, TalkBack. The status needs to be to controller. Okay, there's a choice of different MIDI status. You select controller. The MIDI channel, I kept it to 1, but the address, I chose 39. Those were unused CC addresses. So 39 and 40 are the CC addresses that I selected, and flags are to receive only. And then at the bottom, let's reset those. You will have reference and TalkBack, and then you're going to assign those to commands, both of them. And then going to look for control room for both, in my case, because I'm using this command. And then the action. So the action for the first one is select control room. If I test it, there you go. And the other one is TalkBack. So you can do this with all sorts of command, and that is part of Cubase, which is very useful. So this is how I did it. Now, if I go back to my software, I also have the sliders, which again are super responsive, and you know, and the reach that I have is also very nice. So the first one is assigned to CC11, which is expression. CC1 is the second one, which is basically the mod wheel, and then the CC3 is an unused that I actually use only to assign a command straight on a virtual instrument. So for example, if I go and open this pad shop instrument, and I want to control with this knob and this slider, actually, the filter, you know, the cutoff filter, I can right click on Learn CC, move this one, and there you go. It's going to control that command. Okay, I'm going to show you later on how you can work this out also with VST quick control. So stay put. And then I'm just going to forget CC if I want to unassign this command. So that slider, if I need it, is going to be used for that purpose. And for CC11 and CC1, that will depend on the instrument you're working with. In this case, I'm working with this Opus from East West Library, and let's try it out briefly. Okay, now I'm not a keyboard player whatsoever, so if you want to watch a very good demonstration of what you can do with inexperienced keyboard player, check out my good friend Dom Sigalas' video on the Monogram CC. He shares some very cool examples of what you can do with this type of control. So check it out. I'm going to leave the link on top and again down below. Now, if we go down one step on the controller and look at this big knob, the Arbiter module, honestly, it's one of my favorite modules of this controller. It does control everything. And the way I assigned it is I kept it to the default value, which is the scroll wheel, basically. And this way I can control anything that I want. But you can assign that to any types of command if you want to. So if I use it on the project window, if I use my scroll straight off my mouse, it's going to go up and down. So it's going to do the same with this Arbiter module. And if we look inside the module, we have also tilt buttons here that we can press. And in my case, it goes from left to right or up and down also. So very cool, super practical, and I love working with this knob, but it goes a step further. It's the perfect tool, in my opinion, to control a plugin. So let's just open a compressor right here. And let's check this out. If I bring my mouse toward a parameter of a plugin, If that plugin supports the scroll wheel of your mouse to control the parameter, it's going to work with that big wheel also, which is super practical. And it has a very good reach, smooth operation, also super responsive. And honestly, this is usually what I use just to work with plugins in Cubase, which is super easy to work with. Then if we look at these knobs, on the left, they are assigned to MIDI CC 16 to 23, if I'm not mistaken. So I use them for quick controls. Okay, so I'm going to open again my Pad Shop instrument, and if I click on the bottom left, on the left zone, I have the Quick Controls tab. If you don't see it, make sure you click on the Setup Inspector and check Quick Controls, and then you're going to have the Quick Controls. How I like to use it, because you can use that to control any plugins if you want to. So if I go back to my snare channel, open Quick Controls, I can actually I'm going to go and open the same plugin. Click on Quick Control. Now on this one, what I can do is to click on Learn, select the first tab here, and there you go. I'm just going to move one parameter. It's going to show right here. I'm going to select the second one and do the same for the output gain and so on. So this is something that can be done. Personally, I like it better just using the Arbiter module to do so by pointing my mouse. Way faster, super responsive, and that's my way to work when controlling a plugin. But that can be done with Quick Controls. But what I like to do with Quick Controls is to control the pre-gain parameters of a channel. So let's open the channel settings of this channel, and I have access to volume, the pre-gain, and also I can activate the low cut filter, and let's bring it on. There you go. And same for the second one. So that is a very easy reach for me to control those parameters with the controller itself. And, I use the pre-gain parameters of a channel often when mixing. So that is perfect for my needs. So that's why I added myself an extra knob module so I can have a total of 8 faders. It's 9 faders, but I use 8 for the quick controls. Now, if you want to set that up in Cubase, we'll have to go back to Studio Setup. And this time around, you will select Track Quick Controls. And again, the input and output needs to go to Monogram MIDI. And then the address, by default, you can just click on Learn and turn the knobs on your own. It's going to select the address. Mine 16 through 23 were selected by doing so. And the important thing here is to make sure that the MIDI status again is selected to controller. And then the flags, very important to have receive and relative selected, or else if relative is not selected, the movement on the knob itself will jump from 0 to 127 instead of a gradual movement. Okay, so make sure that relative is selected, and then that's it. You're good to go. You'll be able to use a quick control. Now for VST quick controls, those are going to be good to control virtual instruments. I'm going to go back again on this studio setup, and this time we are going to select VST quick controls. I'm using the same controller to do so. However, I need to select different MIDI addresses to assign to the VST quick controls so I can avoid getting conflicts if I use the same addresses as the ones that I have under track quick controls. So again, MIDI output and input goes to Monogram, and this time around I manually selected 24 through 31 for CC addresses. And again, same thing, receive and relative are selected. And what I need to do straight on my software, for the first profile for track quick controls, I go to turn, MIDI mode, and assign that to CC 16, and I do the same for all the other ones until I get to 23. Now I created myself a second Cubase profile which has the same commands, to the exception of those CC messages for VST quick controls. This time around they are going from 24 to 31. Okay, so when I switch to one profile to the other, to the second profile, actually, I'm gonna be able to use the VST quick controls. And to switch from one to the other, I created myself a key command right here on this button, the next profile button. So I select it, click on preset and the profile mode, and I click on next on both profiles, and that is going to switch between those two profiles. That's simple. So this way I don't even need to go back to the software. I just need to press on this command, and that's it. I'm going to see it right away on the display that I am on the Cubase VST profile. That means that I'm working with the VST quick controls. So let's go in the right zone. Go to VSTi. I'm still on Pad Shop, and let's just enlarge this section. And you see those knobs here at the bottom of the instrument. Those are the VST quick controls. So if I I move the first knob, you will see that parameter moving also. Okay, and I'm going to open the virtual instrument. And there you go. So now the cutoff filter is set up to the first quick control, the resonance to the second one. Okay, so you get the idea, and it's the same for all of them. So I have 8 total, which is quite nice. Now, you can also use, track quick controls to control the same parameters, okay? So if I want to do so, I'm going to go back to my first profile, and this time around on the quick control, I'm going to click on this little option here, Get Default Quick Controls from Plugin, and I'm going to have the same. Okay, the same cutoff, control, resonance, it's going to be the same thing. The only difference, that I'm going to get, and the advantage of getting the controls from the VST quick controls is, first, I can assign this to my input filters and control, those filters of this instrument separately from the controls straight on the instrument itself that are controlled by VST quick controls. Something that I like a lot about the Creative Console is to be able to work outside Cubase and control other applications, like I told you earlier, like Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe Premiere that I work with a lot, and also anything related to Windows, like a browser or the Explorer window. Anything related to Windows can be controlled with this controller, which is awesome. So for example, on the top here, straight on the main central module, I have these 2 knobs. Usually people will tend to use these knobs to jump from one profile to another. This is not what I do, but I use it to change desktop. What I mean by changing desktop is very simple. On Windows, you have access to several desktop if you want to. Up to now, I have 3 desktop that I work with, and the cool thing about working with different desktop is to be able to have a program on one desktop and the other on the second one, like I'm doing right here. And those are switching between these desktops. So I'm on desktop number 3 right now, recording the screen capture with OBS. If I go down one spot, I have my mix console and also my browser. I can actually open a browser at this point, and it's going to be set up to this desktop. And then the last one is Cubase, so I can just move around from one desktop to the other. How I did it was very simple, just using a key command on every profile that I have loaded, on the same buttons. So in my case, it's Control plus Windows key plus right and left, top and bottom. So I do the same on all profiles, and this way I can just use these to switch around different desktop, no matter what software I'm using, which is super practical for me. And again, when I'm on a browser, I can just, use that Orbiter module to go up and down and back and forth, because I actually assign these commands to go forward and backwards and so on. I also use the Creative Console for Streamlab OBS when streaming. Also, I have one quick profile for Zoom when I'm on a Zoom call, which is practical, Now, something I forgot to mention is the role of the Monogram CC compared to the Fader Port 16 that I also use on a regular basis when I work in Cubase. Those are not the same. Okay, now the Fader Port 16 has 16 motorized faders. These sliders on the Monogram Creative Console are not motorized, so they're not very useful to move faders around in Cubase. A controller like the Fader Port 16 is going to do the job very well, since we're dealing with motorized faders. Okay, it's not the case for the Monogram Creative Console. So I just wanted to point out before finishing this video. So as far as I'm concerned, working with the Monogram Creative Console has increased my workflow in general, working in Cubase and also working on general Windows tasks, and also other softwares like Premiere, Photoshop, Lightroom, Streamlabs, Zoom even, you know. So for me, it's going to be hard not to have this one on my desk. So that's why I decided to keep it. Now, thanks to Monogram, for the next 30 days, they gave me a coupon code for you to get 15% off. But again, this is only for the next 30 days. So check it out. The link is down below. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments and questions down below. Subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell so you don't miss anything. Don't forget to share and to like this video. And until next time, take care and see you.